All right, so if you're selling in the beauty tech world, you know you're not just selling a machine. You're selling a real result. But what happens when the one thing blocking your sale isn't the price, it isn't the features, but a belief? A deeply held conviction that has absolutely nothing to do with facts. Well, today, we're going to tackle that exact problem, the belief-based objection. And I'm going to show you how to turn those skeptics into your biggest fans. Let's get into it. You heard that right. And nope, I'm not making it up. This is a real objection a salesperson had to deal with. Just imagine, you're there, showing off your incredible, state-of-the-art therapeutic light device. You've got all the science to back it up, and your prospect is worried about, well, demons. You kind of have to laugh, right? But it's no joke when it stops a six-figure deal dead in its tracks. Or hey, how about this one? This is a classic. You're explaining all the amazing benefits of your new microneedling system, talking about cellular regeneration, and suddenly the whole conversation shifts to energetic alignment. If you're selling to estheticians who have a more holistic approach, you have definitely run into this one.
And here it is, the big one. The belief that technology is just cold, it's impersonal, and that real, true care can only come from a human touch. Now look, if any of these sound familiar, you already know your standard sales playbook is basically useless. Trying to fight these beliefs with facts and data, it's a battle you are guaranteed to lose every single time.
So what's our first instinct when we hear something that's just completely out there? We want to correct it, right? We want to pull out the clinical studies, show them the data, and prove our point. But that instinct, that is a trap. I call it the ego closing trap. And let me tell you, it is the absolute fastest way to kill a sale.
And this right here, this is exactly why. When you come back at them with facts, you think you're correcting a piece of misinformation. But to them, you're not attacking the fact. You are attacking them. You're attacking their ego. And a person who feels attacked never, ever buys. They just get defensive. And poof, the sale is gone.
Okay, so if arguing is completely off the table, what are you supposed to do? Well, you don't fight the belief, you tame it. You actually turn it from your biggest obstacle into your greatest ally. And we're about to go through two really powerful techniques, I like to call them spells, that are going to help you do just that. Our first spell is the yes and technique. The real magic here is all in the validation. Now, to be clear, you're not agreeing that your LED machine is a demon magnet. Of course not. But what you are agreeing with is the concern that's hiding underneath, the concern for client well-being, for safety, for energy. That builds trust, and it totally disarms their defensive stance. Here's how it works. It's just two simple steps. First, you validate, and you do it without hesitation. You know what? You're absolutely right to be concerned about that. You're showing respect. Then you pivot, using that magic phrase, and that's exactly why our tech does this. See what happened? You're no longer fighting their belief. You're actually showing them how your product helps them achieve their underlying goal.
Let me give you a perfect real-world example. A distributor for these amazing luminotherapy devices kept running into this exact objection from high-end salons. They saw the tech as cheap, as a gadget that devalued their craft. And of course, the sales team's first approach of just throwing studies at them, it failed, miserably. But then, they tried this. And look at this reframe, it is brilliant. They start with, "You're right." Instant validation. Then, they position the machine not as a replacement for their hands-on work, but as a tool to enhance it, to sublimate their touch. All of a sudden, the technology is a partner that elevates their artistry. That gadget just became a must-have. All right, on to our second spell. This is where it gets really interesting. Once you've validated their belief, you can actually use it as a powerful sales tool. It's called inverted storytelling. And you basically make their core belief the starting point of a success story, a story where they get to be the hero.
I mean, come on. This formula is pure gold. You start by saying you know someone just like them who felt the exact same way. That creates instant rapport. Then you introduce this unexpected benefit that aligns perfectly with their values, like achieving a more natural glow. And you finish with a concrete business result they can't ignore, like being booked solid for months. You see? You just made their belief the very reason they need to buy.
But what if the belief you're hearing isn't even the real problem? You know, a lot of the time, what they're saying is just a smokescreen. So for this next part, you need to put on your detective hat. We're going to talk about unmasking the real, practical fear that's hiding behind the belief. So here's the thing. You have to learn to listen past the words they're using.
An objection that sounds like it's about a brand's country of origin might actually be about a terrible experience they had with a foreign supplier years ago. An objection about naturalness might really be about the high cost of your disposables. Your job is to figure out what's really going on.
This question is absolute magic. It just cuts right through all the noise. By asking them what it would take to change their mind, you force them to stop talking in vague beliefs and start talking in actual decision-making criteria. Their answer is basically a roadmap to the real problem you need to solve.
Oh, this one is just brilliant. You temporarily take their belief off the table. You just say, okay, you know what? Let's just assume that's true for a second. This allows them to lower their guard and tell you what the other roadblocks are. And this is where you hear about the real stuff, the budget, the headache of training the team, or just the plain old fear of trying something new.
Let's look at a quick case study. A salesperson was trying to sell new diode lasers to a big chain of salons, but he kept hitting this exact wall. The owners were adamant, insisting that their clients were just too attached to the natural side of waxing.
So the salesperson used a revealing question. He asked, okay, let's say your clients suddenly started demanding laser tomorrow. What would be your biggest worry? And bam, the truth came out. The real fear had absolutely nothing to do with naturalness. It was about the huge €45,000 investment and whether they'd ever make a return on it. The belief was just a convenient excuse.
Okay, we have covered a ton of ground here, so let's bring it all together. Let's boil it down into a simple 4-step master plan that you can take with you into your very next sales call.
All right, here's your new game plan. Step 1, activate radar mode. You're listening for those big, absolute belief keywords. Step 2, validate. Immediately and sincerely agree with their underlying concern. Step 3, redirect. Use their concern as the perfect bridge to your solution. And finally, step 4, test and anchor. Make sure it landed, then lock it in with a great success story. 4 steps. It's simple, it's effective, and it works.
I want to leave you with one last quick story. There was this philosopher, a master of logic, who visited a psychiatric hospital. He meets a patient who is absolutely convinced that he's Napoleon Bonaparte. So the philosopher spends an entire hour using flawless logic, historical facts, everything, to prove to the man that he isn't Napoleon. Finally, the patient just looks at him, sighs, and says, okay, maybe I'm not Napoleon, but you're crazy. The lesson is simple. Arguing with a deeply held belief is its own form of madness. The smart salesperson doesn't argue. They understand, they validate, and then they redirect. And that, my friends, is how you turn your biggest skeptic into your biggest champion.